Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel and welcome back producer Brandi.
Hi!
Today we're going to have a shorter video talking about becoming a reader as an adult, and Hades is joining us. I don't know if you can see him. Hi baby. Anyways, we're talking about becoming a reader as an adult. Is it too late if you weren't necessarily a reader growing up to become a reader as an adult, and kind of what that means? So I guess I can start briefly with I feel like at least I hear a lot, and let me know if you've heard differently, but that if you read even one book in a 12-month period, which is a year, you're doing better than most adults, because most adults don't even finish a book. And this morning, I Googled real quick, what's the average number of books read a year, specifically by adults. And full disclosure, I did not read any articles for this one. I just literally typed it into Google and it spat out at me 12 is the average number of books people read in a year, or adults. But I imagine that number is skewed by average reader, or by avid blah blah blah.
Avid readers.
Yeah, thank you.
I was gonna say, I don't feel like I agree with that.
I also was like, that seems a little bit high for me, especially if most people don't even read one book. But I can see when you have people who have read over 100 books in a year, the average being padded a little bit.
Right, and that's where I'm curious if they factor in the zeros at all, or if they're saying you had to at least read one book. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
because
that's
I'm
a good point.
Because if you factored in all those zeros, you would skew downward to offset those really high.
Yeah.
So would be interested to know if that's factored in. But I'm surprised.
I was surprised by that as well, but also the people that I know that are avid readers do typically have more than 12 books. Now, all that being said, reading is hard as an adult. There's a lot going on, and I feel like growing up, even non-readers, would you classify yourself as a non-reader for most of your life, including childhood?
For the most part, I mean, there were definitely points where I would find a series that I enjoyed.
The Hunger Games.
Wasn't even gonna actually start there because that wasn't the first one.
No, Twilight?
I mean, I read that too, but okay, we'll go backwards, I guess. So Hunger Games being the most recent in terms of the younger years. Hunger Games, yes. Twilight. I feel like there was that point in junior high where you had to read some, so that's where I found Jodi Picoult. So I would pick up a book here, though. Or I read 13 Reasons Why.
Oof, and I did too. I can't read that one though.
I loved it.
I did too, but in a bad way. We'll talk about that offline.
But I also I remember reading things, and again, technically it was you had to read for 10 minutes or whatever it was, so you got to pick. But I did love finding series. I loved The Magic Tree House. Read, I can't even say all of them at this point because clearly there's probably so many of them now. Who knows how many? But I read into the hundreds that would have been out for that time period, or your Junie B. Jones and things of that nature. But then beyond the Hunger Games, I probably didn't really read in college. The occasional Jodi Picoult book that I'd be like, oh, I enjoy her, so I'll grab one of her books. But if you read Jodi Picoult, she's not a light topic kind of person, so you got to be mentally prepared to be what devastating thing is going to happen? Let's jump in.
So I think you also kind of what you touched on, it's easier to be a reader as a kid, throughout high school, I would say. That's kind of that was when I was self-reflecting, I was it was so much easier to be a reader to and through high school because most of us had English classes where we had to read at least a handful of books. And a lot of those sometimes would be the start of series, and then you would fall into it, or what you said, you didn't, you could pick your own book, but you had to read for a set amount of time, which then maybe you got into it.
Yeah, and I do want to add, I was not reading the required reading. I was reading the timed reading, but like anything that I had to read, no. We were spark notesing that. Let me clarify that. That's my level of I found a series or I didn't read. There's no real in between there. So I feel like that should be clarified now that you point that out.
That is a good point, because I was thinking, I'm like, yeah, like I did the assigned reading.
No, you're lucky if I read the textbook pages. Like I said, I have better things to do.
But then after high school, you like
didn't read.
We went to college, but there's also people going into trade school or starting your job or whatever it is to be classified like as an adult. And throughout college, I did not really read for fun. Like
I didn't.
I read my textbooks. I
didn't.
I don't think I'm like trying to think back, and did I read for fun? I don't think I did.
I feel confident I
did. And then you started working after college and didn't pick up reading.
Nope.
I went straight into grad school, and in the past on the channel I've talked about, and I feel like we have talked about outside of the channel, that like I consider myself getting back into reading as an adult. When I first moved down to Cincinnati, I was definitely on that train of like Leigh Bardugo, Six of Crows, Bridgerton. Netflix had like this little era of taking
adaptations.
Yeah. And like they were good, and then I found out they were books, and I was like, wait, like I
read. I'm like, I know how to do that.
I heard it was kind of like that. I was like, oh, I used to be a reader. Like, why can't I do that again as an adult? But again, going back and like when I was reflecting for this video, really, I started reading for fun again in grad school, which sounds crazy, and like it was. But I didn't until I was like actively in a lab most days. So fun fact about me, I actually got my master's in biological sciences.
Sounds awful, but so glad you did.
More intimidating than it is. But that meant that most of my days were spent in the lab running assays and doing other experiments.
What were you running?
Assays.
Okay, I didn't know if you just said essays. Weird.
No.
I was like, I kind of like if you said essays. Essay.
No.
I have to write my essay.
No, it's just an experiment you do to look at protein levels in your cells. But anyways, while I was doing that, you would get into a flow, and I started listening to audiobooks. And really, that is when I kind of started becoming a reader as an adult again, when I was in the lab for countless hours and when I was doing tasks that I could listen to things. Started listening to audiobooks again. Until I became an adult and got a real job. But that's when I became like an avid reader, I guess. Again, I did famously cancel on plans with Matt to read a book.
That would make you a reader. I don't think I've canceled on anybody to read a book yet.
Straight up told this man, no, I can't meet up with you. I'm reading.
I've told a man that I want to finish my audiobook, but I didn't cancel plans.
Oh, I
just said, hey, I want to listen to my audiobook. So, I mean, I told him I read.
Plans. But that's a story for another day. And I feel like I was also trying to think like what makes it hard, or like what's the perception of it being difficult to become a reader as well, because I also feel like it's different rediscovering your love for reading as an adult to as truly becoming a reader as an adult.
I think for me, so as an adult, in the last year, let me actually clarify this. In the last year.
She's fresh.
Yeah, I'm a newbie. I know there's going to be a video about goals, but
that's actually next week. So,
I started this year with a goal to read 10 books, and I was like, okay, kind of a lofty goal. We'll see what happens. See, not even that 12 for the year.
And would you even say that that's my fault because I kept taking you to the bookstore?
Probably.
Yeah.
And I would buy books that I was like, when are you going to read these? I don't know. And honestly, some of those still haven't touched them. But that's not the
And
point.
that's
But I do
okay.
own them. Whereas now I am on my 51st book of the year. So clearly surpassed that goal. But it all has come from audiobooks. And I think audiobooks are a very accessible way to get into it. As you know, I got bronchitis this year and I needed a
Oof.
reason to get off of my couch and stop watching TV because I was so bored of sitting there. So audiobooks were kind of an easy way, and shocking to everybody, I started reading the Hunger Games again. I swear I do other things than this. I'm not even really like, that's not even most of the kind of stuff I read, which is really funny
but you
too.
read 50 books, so people know that you
Yeah.
read more than the Hunger Games.
Just read it 10 times through.
Okay.
Honestly, would. But I just needed like something that I could watch, or not watch, but like do while doing other things. Like I wanted that stimulus, like as if I were watching TV or I was on my laptop, but it also could go do other things and not sit on my couch. And I think that's where audiobooks made that really easily, or made that easy. And then I travel for work. And so then it was all like, oh, wait, I can plug this into my car. I have to drive 6 hours. Oh, cool. I can get through a book or most of a book. And I'm in the hotel and I'm unpacking my stuff. Cool. I can just have this going. Where if it wasn't for that, I don't know if I would have picked up that this year the way that I did.
But to kind of building off of that, I know for both of us for a fact that when we started this journey of rediscovering and becoming readers as an adult, we did not count audiobooks as reading. You and I had several discussions where you're like, yeah, I'm not.
I still feel weird about it sometimes.
Right?
I have mixed feelings still.
But it wasn't until I started reading more that I was like, no, this is still reading. And I truly feel that like every year I continue developing the skill and putting time into this hobby, I just realize more and more everything counts as reading. Like, okay, you did an audiobook instead of a physical book. That is still reading. You are still consuming that media in a form. And like you said, that is an accessible form.
Mm-hmm.
Another accessible form that I've talked with my parents about, because they're both in education, is graphic novels. Mm-hmm. Even at the start of this year, I felt like an underlying guilt for counting the graphic novels that I read as part of my reading, but I was still reading. And I feel like younger kids, and not even younger kids, like even high schoolers, find that having the visual as well as the text is an easier form to digest that, which goes off on a completely different tangent of what's being taught in school, because that's a conversation that I had with my parents that maybe I'll do a deeper video on, about how our society is affecting how we read. Because very briefly, they no longer teach visualization in schools when you're reading. So one of the things I always ask people who say they don't like to read is, well, do you just basically see the words in your brain, or do you picture a scene, watch a movie? Because I very much picture what's going on, and not like 100% of the time, but like I basically watch a movie in my brain. And I was telling this to my parents, and my mom said, well, that's because when you were growing up, as educators, we taught visualization. We gave you a word, we gave you a picture of that word. As stories got longer, we asked you to visualize, and that's not how they're teaching reading anymore. So maybe that'll be a different video. But back to this point of all forms of reading count as reading. Did you reread a book? Yeah, that still counts as reading. Yeah. My first 3 years reading as an adult, I refused to count rereading towards, even this year, I did not count the books that I reread towards my reading goal. And that's just silly because I still read them.
I was going to say, I'm waiting until the start of the new year, and then I'm going to re-listen to the Hunger Games. But I told myself, I was like, no, those count towards next year's reading.
She means this year. We're recording this in December.
No, so yeah, I'm going to wait till the new year so it starts to count for next year.
Yeah, this video is coming out, and this will be like in February.
Yeah, I got you. I was like, no, you're right. It's December, so I got you.
Let's just ignore that because this is a February video.
Whoa, plot twist. We're like Smosh.
I know.
We got that production lead time.
That production time. But no, so they're not teaching
Visualization.
They're not teaching
Visualization.
I'm just gonna, what did I say? Oh, so I didn't count the books that I reread because I had like this.
I want to know if
Nike. You can't see her, I don't think.
That's kind of a bummer for them.
Yeah.
Just
Nike. Come here, baby.
She said, what? I'm not doing anything.
We had to break because Nike decided to try and knock over the camera. So as I was saying, there was just like this underlying guilt, which is rather silly, to rereading. I know that you waited until 2026 to do your reread of The Hunger Games, but you're still reading.
Mm-hmm.
I still reread those books.
I think, and I feel like we've probably talked about this in one of the other videos at some point, but just like the stigma of some people that go into reading and it's like they are readers and like there is this like that is them, and it's, I don't know if pretentious is the right word, but they hold it as like I am up here,
lofty.
Yeah, and so that barrier to entry is higher than it actually feels like it is.
Yes.
And so then there is that level of, depending who I'm talking to, if I say, oh, I've read 50 books this year, and then you ask me like physically about the books, I'm like, ooh, I think I read like 3 physical books and everything else has been, audiobooks. And so there is that level of, oh, am I really reading? And I think that's still something I'm working through. And I mean, you have your video where you talk about audiobooks, and obviously we were just chatting about it, but
I think it also, sorry.
No, I was gonna say that I think that's just what's in my mind, is even still being like, great example here. Sorry. Running. We run. When we're with certain running group friends, I'm like, ooh, I struggle to say I'm a runner.
Yeah.
Because they're so much better. They're faster. They do longer races, X, Y, and Z. But if I'm with my friends who do not run, I am a runner and I have no issue saying that. Yeah. And I think it's just, who am I talking to? What is the audience? Depends on how I feel about where I stand.
I think both of those tie into what I think is changing our culture. And a lot of that I think is like driven by social media. Everything is more of a competition these days. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, you think you're a reader and you read, your goal was 10 books. Well, I average blah, 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 blah.
47 a month.
Right. And I do them all physical. Like I don't do digital or audio. And I think that to get the views and to get the likes and everything about it,
you have to stand out,
is kind of geared more towards a competition. And like, to be honest, I feel like while I was taking the break of like, do I want to continue the channel, one of the like big heavy hitters for me was like, I want a community. Like, do I want to talk about books? Yeah. Do I read a lot of books? I think so. I definitely don't read as much as other people, but I want a community. I don't want it to be a competition. Mm-hmm. Because I just realized that I think that's like a stopgap or a bottleneck. That's a better word for it. It's like, do you want to say that you're a reader because you listen to audiobooks? Like, yes, you are a reader. There's always going to be someone who reads more than you, and it shouldn't be a competition. I feel like before social media was so prevalent and things were a little bit more maybe like private, mm-hmm. More people enjoyed maybe not even just reading, but like our whole lives are on display and everything we do can be construed as a competition. Even the like book apps in a way are competitive. It's like, have you read every day so you can continue your streak? Have you read this amount of books.
For me, what's your daily finish time? Or like, how many days does it take you to finish a book?
Oh, yeah, that's
and on a regular
huge for
basis,
me.
I'm like, can I bring this down? Because I'm sitting at 5 days right now, and I'm like, this should be lower.
That's huge.
I'm like,
for me
I finished
too.
3 books this week alone, so I'm very upset. I was like, that was 24 hours. Thank you.
I'm sitting at 6 days for the whole year,
So
and
I'm
I
the
just
winner.
love.
Just
Yeah,
kidding.
she's the winner. But then I click into December so I can get that dopamine hit because my December is sitting at. It's been 2 days a book.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll have to look at my December.
But it's just everything is so geared to competition. Having that like competitiveness, I think, is also contributing to our society changing, as well as with social media and short form media. Why would you sit down and read a book when you can much more easily watch a video on your phone or put on a movie?
Well, and I was going to say, like, for me, I'm like, I know what I want to say, but how do I want to get there? Basically, I've told you before, there's times that I will be really into a book and like really want to finish it, but I know my brain can't do it. So like, I know you read during your lunch break and you're like, that's what I do for an hour, where I'm like, no, most days I'm not.
I do for 30 minutes. My lunch break is only 30 minutes.
My bad.
But
either way, still 30 minutes.
I wish it was an hour.
30 minutes nonetheless. I'm like, I take an hour lunch break, so that's my bad. But I'm like, no, for me, I might listen to it as I like prep my lunch, but then I need to turn it off because I want to put something on where I'm on
downtime.
low. Yeah, I need low brain power. I don't want to ignore my story because I'm trying to like barely use my brain before I go back to work.
Yeah, and it's like that's another part of it. It's like we have so much going on as adults. Like you have work, you have that commute time to work where maybe you're listening to an audiobook, but maybe you need that time to like, what is my day? Decompress. Focus on pets or children or spending time with your partner, with friends. And there are just so many other, oh my God, working out. Being active so that we can live longer to read more books.
We did try to bring in a book to work out. Remember, we tried to bring in the Hunger Games to yoga.
We did.
I swear we do other things than the Hunger Games.
But we should make a Hunger Games yoga. I think that'd be hilarious. But I think the long story short of this, and you'll have to let me know if you agree, is that it's never too late.
I would agree.
To become a reader. And I think you jumped in and did so many. My first year back to reading as an adult, like in considering myself as a reader, I think I finished 20 books in the year, and I was thrilled. For your first year coming in and being like, yeah, I knocked out 50 books. I think that's amazing. I didn't even do 50 last year.
Yeah. Well,
I guess I did 50 last year. I did 100 last year. My original goal was 50. The year before that, 2024, I didn't do 50.
I think it's just figuring out what the priority of it is. And like, again, me traveling for work, I realized I needed some kind of like stimulus when I was in the car for multiple hours on end when I couldn't talk to somebody else and I only had so many podcasts or songs I wanted to listen to, and it's not safe to throw like YouTube on in the car. So I figured I'm like, probably not my option. I also, at points wanted to not be staring at my screen. I do that all day for work, and I wanted to be able to move around, and I slowly realized, hey, these audiobooks gave me that option.
Hey, this audiobook thing.
And I also started with a series I knew I liked. I read through the Hunger Games because I read the new book, physically read the new book, and then said, oh, I want to read the rest of this series again. I really enjoy it. But realized I was like, I don't know when I'm going to find time to physically read it. And that's where I was like, well, Kenzie, she's done these audiobook things. Maybe if I'm going to try it, let's do it with something that I already know I like and can kind of practice taking that in. And then once that door was open, then it was easy to keep going. So I think if you watching this right now go, I don't know how I'm going to start getting into reading. If you have a series at some point that you've enjoyed, find the audiobook of that version and open that door.
Or just like as an alternative, neither of us are really big digital readers, but maybe
I go back and forth on my Kindle.
Oh, I did forget you had a Kindle.
I do have a Kindle.
I'm not a big digital reader, but that works really well for a lot of people because they aren't discouraged by seeing the physical amount of the book they have left, or they can highlight things. So it's just what works for you.
Also, don't pay for subscriptions. Use your library. There
Use
are
your
great library
library.
apps like Libby and Hoopla, and I'm sure many more that you don't have to pay for these books. So again, barrier gone, and you don't physically have to go to a library. You can set up your library card.
Oh my God, yeah.
This is really just a PSA for the library.
The Libby app is great.
So definitely check out the Libby app, Hoopla. Use those as ways to start getting into digital or audio if there's the barrier to picking up books.
And next month, I actually am going to do a video talking about the Libby app, how and why. I mean, this is
How many
the
times
why.
I pointed them? I'm like, I got you guys. I want you to know we're in the same room together.
We're all in this. But yeah, like we're going to talk about how to use it, like what are the benefits. And the benefits are pretty much what Brandi said of
You got the synopsis.
we don't gatekeep in this house. We don't gatekeep on this channel. This is how you get it for free. And little sneak peek, I guess. Your library gets new books. Like I am on the wait list right now for a book that releases on Tuesday. So
note to self, I've got a book that's coming out in April.
Yeah, look and see if your
note to self. I didn't know this.
Look and see if your library
and it's one I think you would like too that I told you about. We'll talk about this offline.
We'll talk about it later. But anyways, thank you, Brandi, for joining us. I know she's gonna be here next week too, guys. We're so lucky. We get back to back to Brandi because next week, as Brandi hinted at earlier, we're gonna talk about setting realistic goals for reading. We're gonna be basically 2 months into this year, and we're gonna talk about setting reading goals and what that means to us, and setting realistic goals and what realistic means to you. But until then, we hope that you are in the middle of a good book, or if you're just discovering your love for reading, either for the first time or just as an adult. Happy reading.
Enjoy.
Bye.